And boom, just like that. Okay, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a special Sunday edition of Off the Record with our great guest, Brother Fontaine Muhammad. Brother Fontaine, could you please give our listener audience the greetings, sir, and
yes,
viewing audience?
Absolutely. Assalamu alaikum and peace be unto each and every beloved brother and sister, friend, family, supporter, dear believers from all over America and throughout the world. Thank you so much for taking a moment of your time to be with me and my beautiful brother, Brother Joshua Muhammad, who is doing an outstanding job in propagating the faith and representing this great teaching all over America and beyond. Brother Joshua, thank you for this moment of your precious time.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Brother Fontaine, and thank everyone for watching. If you all have the questions that I received the questions that you've inboxed or DM me, but you can also write them in the comments as well. Mr. Jamil, Joshua, thank you, Kachib, Uncle Jamil, and my sister Naima says, "Walaikum salam." Assalamu alaikum.
Yes.
Okay, excellent, Brother Fontaine. When did you accept the teaching, sir?
Well, all praise is due to Allah. To be very honest and straight to the point there, Josh, it's a short story, but it's a love story, if I could be honest. I was a freshman in college at Coppin State Community College in Baltimore, Maryland. And as you know, we grow up in the ghetto. It's very rough, very difficult. And I lost my mother at a very young age. I had just turned 11 on March the 22nd, and my beloved mother made her transition on March 28th, 1979. And so by the time I got to college, I had been through a lot, went through a very extreme childhood, as most of our brothers and sisters do. And when I got to college, I was in need, yearning, looking for things, trying to find my way through life. And there I was on the campus in the spring of 1989. And I saw these beautiful brothers marching and drilling and moving about the campus. I saw them a few times. I didn't know who they were, didn't know what they represented, but I got the courage one day to ask one of the brothers, who were they? And the brother told me, man, it's Omega Psi Phi fraternity, we're the Q Dogs. And I said, Dogs. And he said, yes, sir. And I said, man, this is nice. He said, you want to learn more? I said, sure, I'm interested. So he said, well, why don't you meet us in the library after class? We're going to have a secret meeting. And so I did. After class, I went to a meeting in the upper room at Coppin State Community College. And in that meeting, there were many brothers of this fraternity called the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Again, these are the Q Dogs. I didn't know anything about anything. And after the meeting, they told us that we would have the baddest line that Coppin State had ever produced. And they said I would be the shortest Q online. And there was a brother who was about 6'3" or 4", and he was the tallest. And they said we would have the baddest line that Coppin State had ever produced. And I was interested. We left the meeting. And Josh, this is the God's honest truth. I had been in management since I was 18 years of age. And I had been blessed to get my first vehicle, which was a condition of the management job that I had at that time. I was managing a pick and pay shoe store, which was in Gaithersburg, Maryland, which was roughly an hour and a half away from Baltimore, Maryland. And one of the conditions was within 6 months, I had to have my own mode of transportation. The manager who trained me at that time, his name was Wade Coates. He was a beautiful brother. He's the first one who taught me how to work 16, 17, 18 hours a day, to be frank and honest. And he would drive me to work to and from every day. But within that 6-month period, Allah blessed me to get my first car. It was a brand new baby blue Chevrolet Spectrum 4-door. And I was on top of the world. And I came out of that meeting. And as Allah is my witness, I jumped in the vehicle and I turned it on. And as I turned on the vehicle for the very first time, I heard the voice of the Honorable Minister Min Farrakhan. And as I was sitting in the car, I literally yelled out loud. I was by myself and I said, good God Almighty, who is this? And as the words came out of my mouth, the announcer came over the radio. I believe it was your uncle. I can't say for certain, but the announcer came over the radio and said, Minister Min Farrakhan comes to Baltimore via satellite. Come to 3013 West North Avenue and get your ticket right now. Joshua, it was like a command from the Lord of the worlds himself. And I took off and I was in the 2500 block of West North Avenue. I had never seen a member of the Nation of Islam before. I had never seen a brother in a bow tie or a sister in a garment, although I had read the autobiography of Malcolm X and I had some understanding of that to a degree, but I didn't understand that it was a real nation, that these were real people. I was reading it like it was a fiction book. I didn't understand any of it. But at any rate, I got down the street within minutes. And I parked my car and I walked across the street to 3013 West North Avenue, which was our mosque at that time. And it was also the tape connection where their audio and video was being sold. And I walked inside and the beautiful brother was in the place. His name, I later learned, was Robert Muhammad. But when I walked in, I said, "Sir, may I please meet Minister Louis Farrakhan?" And he said, "Oh, brother, he's not here right now." but that's his picture over there. And he pointed to a picture on the wall of our beloved minister. And I walked over to that picture. And as Allah is my witness, Brother Joshua, I looked up at the picture of our beloved minister, and I was just staring at the picture, and I said, "My God, this man is beautiful." Just talking to myself. The minister's playing in the background, audio tapes are playing. And then I turned back to my brother and I said, "Sir, do you have tickets to hear Minister Farrakhan?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "How much are they?" He said, $10. I paid for my ticket. And then these audio and videos are playing. And I said, "How much are these?" And he said, $10. I said, "May I buy one?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Which one would you recommend?" And he blessed me with my first audio tape entitled "Diamonds Among Men," a classic from the rebuilding days of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and rebuilding the work of our eternal Father. I jumped back in my vehicle, Brother Joshua, and I was headed to work again. I had an hour and a half drive. By the time I got to Pick and Pay in Gaithersburg, Maryland, my life had been changed in a way that I can't even put into words. I had heard the word that I had been longing for all the days of my life. I heard the voice of the man who I had been yearning for all the days of my life. And from that moment, I began to just listen to the minister all day. Every chance I had, I would listen to these audio messages. And then one day, I was coming to the tape connection, and there was this beautiful brother. His name is Brother Al Muhammad. He was the first officer at that time. I mean, he had the smile of an angel. He was gifted. He was loving. He was kind. And Brother Al said, "Brother, what's your name?" And I told him Fontaine. And he said, "Man, would you be my special guest tonight?" And I said, "Special guest?" I said, "For what, sir?" And he said, "It's a men's class tonight called FOI class." He said, "Man, would you be my special guest?" And I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "What time does it start?" He told me 7:30. He said, "Would you be here at 7?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he was dressed in dirty clothes. He was an HVAC repairman at that time. And so I had on a shirt and tie, but I didn't understand anything that was happening, to be very honest. But I came back at 7 o'clock, and there he was, suited and booted. And I came into the class, and the first brother's face that I saw was one of the most beautiful men that I've ever met in my life. He's now student minister Tracy Muhammad. He's in Richmond, Virginia, Muhammad Mosque number 24. And he was the first brother whose face I saw. He opened up the class. I'll never forget him. He was beautiful, tall, light skinned, had a part in his hair just like the minister, had on a gray sharkskin suit. And he opened up the class. And to be very honest, the rest was history. I never looked back. That was the way I began my journey in Islam in the spring of 1989. And to be honest, I can't tell you exactly what day or anything. I just know it was the spring. And the reason I know it was March and or April is because when I first heard the minister's voice, it was Mother's Day, May 14th, 1989. So in the spring starts at that time before leap year, it was March the 21st. So it was either I had just turned 21 or I was just about to turn 21, or I may have been just a little over 21. But that's how my journey in Islam began. And I thank Allah for that great day in the spring of 1989.
Excellent, excellent. And thank you all for your comments, and welcome salam to you all who are watching. A lot of the people don't know that you have a biological sister who is in the nation as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And how did that go about with her accepting the teachings as well?
Now, Josh, now you're gonna find this funny, but it's the God's honest truth. Now, in Baltimore, we were under some of the greatest leadership, in my humble view, that the Nation of Islam has ever produced. Student Minister Jamil Muhammad, who is your uncle and a father of mine. I carry him on my shoulders every day of my life. Student Regional Captain Abdul Akil Muhammad, Brother First Officer Larry Muhammad, Brother Al, my first lieutenant, whose name was Brother Marcus, who made his transition a few years ago. May Allah be pleased with him forever. Beautiful sisters who were in leadership, who fed us, who blessed us. And here I was, a zealot young Muslim brother. We didn't know what 2 hours of soldiering was. We didn't know what 4 hours was. I was under a great brother who soldiered the final call. His name was Patrick X. McKinley, a big basketball superstar in Baltimore, a registered Muslim, a great soldier. And he soldiered the paper for 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 hours a day. It was our normal routine. We didn't know what a 2-hour soldiering day was. That was like, if you came out for 2 hours, you might as well stay at home. So there my baby sister was, as God is my witness. Josh, we out there grinding. And it was Morgan State's homecoming. And my baby sister had become pregnant at an early age. And we didn't know what to do. We were in the ghetto. My baby sister's pregnant. She was only 16 years of age. And I was doing the best that I could to raise my baby sister, who I had been given the responsibility as a big brother since I was 5 years old. And so we're inseparable. She doesn't see me as really her brother. She really sees me as a father. And I've tried to be that to my baby sister and my baby brother literally since the day they were born. It's been just that simple. So here I was, my baby sister's literally in the throes of delivery. She's literally now in the throes of delivery, but it's Morgan State's homecoming. And this is where you would get out 500, 800, 1,000 Final Call newspapers. We trying to save and serve our people. And I was as loony as I could about this teaching, brother. Nothing else mattered. So I had my baby sister with me in the car. We're at Morgan State's homecoming, and my baby is literally in the throes of labor. And I had my baby sister in the front seat of the car with me while I'm out there soldiering, introducing her to the FOI, introducing her to every brother who was out there soldiering. And it was just a great experience. And by Allah's grace, we went to the hospital later that night and we walked around and we did everything to induce her labor. And by Allah's grace, she delivered my nephew, Jeffrey Muhammad, in that year. And shortly thereafter, at the age of 16, my baby sister followed her big brother into the Nation of Islam. And she's been in the ranks by Allah's grace since she was 17 years of age. She's now married to student minister Carlos Muhammad. He's my brother-in-law, married to my one and only baby sister. And they've been married now for nearly 23 years or so. So my baby sister has been a gift from Almighty God to me. My baby brother, he also admires the teaching. He understands the teachings. He hasn't joined yet, but he's a Muslim in his heart. But that's how my baby sister became Sister Tracy Muhammad, and she's the joy of my life. All praises due to Allah, my baby sister.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excellent. And thank you all for your comments. How did you first meet the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
Well, that's a big story. Brother Larry Muhammad, who was my military trainer, one of the greatest men that I've ever met in my life, he was taking us all over America. We were trying to pattern ourselves after our regional mosque in Washington, D.C. They were much more advanced than we were under the leadership of your father, who is a beautiful brother whom I love with all of my heart. And believe me, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I would not be the brother who I am today. I wouldn't be the brother who I'm striving to be tomorrow. I wouldn't even be in this work, to be very honest, in the spirit in which I love this work, were it not for Brother Abdul Sharif Muhammad. He was the regional captain at that time as Brother William Muhammad, and Brother Rodney Muhammad, who's now Akil Muhammad. They were brothers and they were very close. And so Baltimore and DC were twin brothers and sisters, if you will. And we would go there and compete with them, but they knew how to drill better. They had uniforms. They were very advanced. And so Brother Larry one day said we had went to DC and we had lost the drill competition and we were outdone with the righteous competition. And he said to us right then and there, Baltimore will never be second place to any other mosque again in the nation. And so we began to train in earnest. I mean, in a way that we had never trained before. And everywhere that Minister Farrakhan went, we drove. I drove in my little Chevy Spectrum, and he had a 4-door brown Geo Prism. And we drove to New Orleans. We drove to Miami, Florida, from Baltimore, Maryland. We were in Virginia. We were in Cleveland. Wherever the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was, we were there ready and prepared to give our lives. But at a point in my life, in my early day, me and the mother of my children, who was my wife at the time, a beautiful sister, her name is Tawana Muhammad. We were married. We were going through our situations. And my beloved Minister Jamil took our situation to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for guidance and counsel. And in that guidance and counsel, the minister asked him to bring us to him because he wanted to meet us face to face. And in that meeting face to face, I was blessed to be taken into the minister's life in a very unique way. I won't go into all of that right now, but it was a very unique experience that I've been blessed to have with the man of God that I love with all of my heart. And as a result of that meeting, he blessed me and Tawana and our young son, who was just a little 6-month-old or 7-month-old baby at that time. He wanted us to move to Chicago to be with him. And he told me that I would be able to help him in the propagation of the faith. And the first thing that I was supposed to do was to take the message of Islam, books and tapes, and go into the projects and spread this message all over the city of Chicago. And by Allah's grace, we were there and blessed to live with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in a sit-down meeting one day, eating dinner, it came up that the Final Call had an opening. as manager. They needed a manager, and I didn't know anything about post. I didn't know anything about charity. I didn't know anything about an entity. I didn't know anything about any of that. But by Allah's grace, I put in my little application, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan accepted it. It was divine, to be very honest, without me going way deep into that. I'm not trying to be spooky in any way, but only Allah could orchestrate what took place. And at the age of 24 years and 10 months of age, I was blessed to become the general manager of the Final Call Administration building. And I've been blessed to be in that entity in some way, shape, or form as a very integral part by Allah's grace now for 26 years. And I could never thank Allah enough for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for blessing me with such an honor to be a brother who has the responsibility of aiding him to propagate the life-saving and life-giving message of our eternal Father, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that he teaches, spoon feeds to his people all over America and throughout the world. So I'm one of the most blessed young men in the world, in spite of the ups and downs and the hard work that comes along with the engine of our nation. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Praise be to Allah, and a great response. And thank you all for your comments as well.
Praise be to you.
When you said the ups and downs, could you explain some of maybe the challenges that you've had to overcome in your position at the Final Call and your triumphs as well? But the challenges first, please.
Yes, sir. Well, I can say it like this. When you're aiding a man who is hated, and he's literally the most hated man in the world by the enemies of God. The Holy Quran teaches us that the number one aim of the enemy of God is to murder the messenger of God. Well, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is that man who carries the message of freedom, justice, and equality. He carries the invincible truth of our eternal Father, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And as a result of his 64 years of labor, he is in fact now the Jesus walking in our midst. He opens the eyes of the blind. He gives sight to the blind. He gives those who have no ability to move. He makes the lame walk, gives us a tongue. We had absolutely nothing to talk about. We were dead men and women, and he raised us from death and gave us life. And so being in that entity, you're running into the same opposition that the Father is running into. It's just a smaller level. And so the entity presents his own unique set of challenges because we're surrounded by some of the most beautiful believers on earth. Unfortunately, we're also surrounded by some of the most dangerous hypocrites on earth. And we also are sprinkled in with some agents among us. We know this. It's just the reality of life. And if you read this latest edition of the Final Call that I've been holding up without fail for the last few weeks, this is volume 1, Josh, issue number 2. And in this edition of the Final Call newspaper, which is literally handwritten, every single word by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he details the heinous plots of the United States government and how they moved about in every single department in the Nation of Islam under the leadership of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, how they were in every single area, every single department in Muhammad University and all of our businesses. And the aim of the enemy is to break the spirit of the believer. The aim of the enemy is to insult the believer to a point where they can't function, where they can't work, where they're in doubt and in suspicion. And so in the engine of our nation, we have that. It's a continuous fight. It's a continuous battle. But those of us who say we believe, we have to outwork, outthink, outflank, outmaneuver the enemy at all times. And that's my job. I work feverishly by Allah's grace and mercy. And I intend in this new year to work harder than I have ever worked before, as the enemy intends to snuff out the life of the man who saved our lives. We intend to work harder than we have ever worked before to ensure that the man that we love, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, his message of truth is spread all over America and throughout the world, that when the enemy makes the move that he believes will be successful, the people will stand up by Allah's grace and cry out, because they have been fed the word by the man of God who is in our midst, whose job is to save all of his people. I'm talking about the entire 40 to 50 million. And so I've been, Josh, and I'm very open and honest, I've been through some of the tremendous ups as a result of being in the engine of our nation. And unfortunately, I've also suffered some tremendous downs as a result of being in the engine of our nation. But all of it was to my benefit. All of it was a blessing from Almighty God, Allah. And when you've been sifted, Allah says you'll get them all except my purified ones. And so may I encourage every single believer who may be watching this broadcast, rest assured that you're down today, is preparation for up tomorrow. Trust me, I'm one of those brothers who can say it without any exaggeration. I've been in trouble before. I've been in a position where I couldn't see straight. I've been in a position where I didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring, but Allah had mercy on me. He saved the wretch just like me, and he's in the saving wretch business. He came for the despised and the rejected and the brokenhearted, and he came to save us from the sins, not just our sins. He came to save us. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan continues to teach us. He came to save us from the sins of white people that we learned as a result of our sojourn in America under their vicious leadership. And so, yes, I've been through some tremendous ups, been blessed as a young man to be the head of the Million Man March vending operation, one of the biggest vending operations in the history of America. Did that at the age, I believe I was 27 years of age, one of the greatest feats in American history, one of the biggest things that we've ever done in our nation. At the same time, I've had some tremendous lows in this nation, but Allah blessed me to stand up once again out of his grace. Thanks to the prayers of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the righteous, here I stand. And I'm thankful to be here to stand today to say there is no God but Allah, the Lord of all the worlds, the beneficent, the most merciful, the all-wise, the true, and the living God, Brother Joshua, who came to us. And I'm talking about all of Allah's goodness, his grace, his redeeming power, his ability to restore, to resave, to rename, to reclaim, to rebuild a broken black man. All of that goodness came in the person of a real live human being whose name is Master W. Farad Muhammad. And that great one raised up the eternal father of this nation, a man who was at the bottom of this world's life. He said he was so low in the mud that the only thing you could see was his eyeballs piercing out. But Allah cleaned him up, shined him up, and put him back on top of the junk pile to save fools just like me. And in 1955, his Aaron came, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in 1989, he found this little brother languishing in hell. And I say, as I close that point, Brother Joshua, you've heard me say for years, I thank Allah for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he literally saved me from a literal pit of hell. And without him, I wouldn't be here talking about, I wouldn't be alive spiritually and emotionally and psychologically. Brother Fontaine wouldn't be here physically. I would be 6 feet deep, stinking somewhere. And so all praise is due to Allah for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for saving a wretch just like me.
Excellent. Praise be to Allah. Thank you all for your comments, and thank you for your great response. Brother Fontaine.
Yes, sir.
When you spoke of the Million Man March, can you please explain to us, like myself and people who weren't around during that time period that was before our time, could you explain to us the climate of the community and the climate in and out of the nation?
I will, brother. It was one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had in my life. I was there at the inception by Allah's grace and mercy as we traveled with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, his final call general manager. Wherever he went, we were blessed to go and propagate the faith. We record what he says. We actually make that available to the world by Allah's grace and mercy. And at that time, we were dealing in video and audio tape. But when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan went to New York City and he spoke to nearly, it had to be over 10 or 12,000 men in the armory. And there were thousands and thousands and thousands of men outside. It was the first men's only meeting in New York City. And at that time, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan let the words, Allah blessed him, and the words came out. I'm going to call for 1 million black men to come to Washington, D.C. And as we've heard the history, the minister said once the words came out, he couldn't call them back. He had to follow up that word through hard work. And he did that. And so he began a series of men-only meetings. And I'm telling you, Brother Joshua, along with your father, who again at that time was the supreme captain of the Nation of Islam, we traveled this country, brother, and the minister went to Houston, Texas, and Dallas, Texas, and Miami, Florida, and New York City, and Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. He literally went all over America, crisscrossing this country. Now, remember, this was before the internet. There was no Twitter. There was no Facebook. There was no Instagram. There was none of that. There was just him, us, and we were on that road, and he was working day in and day out, night in and night out to bring about the miracle of the Million Man March. I can remember one experience in Houston, Texas. The minister went there and he spoke at a church. There were so many men trying to get into this event. They literally were leaving their cars by the hundreds on the highways in Houston, Texas, to come inside to try to hear the voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I'm talking about tens of thousands of men. It was like that in every part of America. And again, I'm blessed to be vending coordinator. So I'm out trying to explain to people how big this event is going to be. You want to be a part of this. You have to be a part of this. It's going to be major. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is going to be blessed by God to bring about the biggest event in the history of Black America. And people got it, some didn't, but for the vast majority, they were moving. And we had vending booths on Constitution and Pennsylvania Avenue and all up and down Washington, D.C. It got so big, Josh. This is the God's honest truth. Now imagine what I'm about to say. On the night of, before the event starts, I'm talking about before prayer, there were already thousands and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of men already on the mall. Now, I didn't understand what was really happening because we were just going through something that had never been done before. I had never seen anything like this in my life. I'm in DC, and we went a day, nearly like a day in advance, to start putting people where they belonged in their various vending booths, but not understanding what was really about to happen. At a point, we couldn't leave. So we were literally on the mall for almost a day and a half, or closer to 2 days on the mall, because you couldn't go home. We didn't understand. You didn't have soap. You didn't have toothbrush. You didn't understand any of that. You were just out there at that point. You had to exist and you had to survive. You had to make it happen. There was nowhere to go. Traffic was at a standstill. People were there by the hundreds of thousands, coming into the million now. It's getting serious out here in DC. There were brothers and sisters who I blessed and who blessed us to be vendors. And I'm the vending coordinator. And they had oodles of noodles, hot tea, coffee, things of that nature. As Allah is my witness, by the time the sun came up, and I believe it was Sheikh Tijani who opened us up in prayer, the vendors who had the hot chocolate, the hot tea, the ramen noodles, anything that was hot, because it was freezing out there at night, it was cold. They were sold out before prayer time. And they were saying, Brother Fontaine, I got to get to the warehouse. I got to make a move. I'll be back. There was no coming back. You couldn't even get out. You couldn't drive nowhere. But they underestimated what was happening. We didn't understand what was about to happen. It was literally a miracle orchestrated by Almighty God Allah and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and for the world to see. And I was there to see men into numbers that were unprecedented. It was so many men, Brother Joshua. I attempted to walk from where we were set up as final call to the stage. We couldn't get hardly anywhere. Me and Brother Ahmad and Brother Tim and a few brothers started walking to try to at least see where the stage was. At a point, we just had to turn right on around and come back to the vending area because there was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to move. It was that many people. And Allah blessed us to watch not 1 million, but nearly 2 million men come to Washington, D.C. on a Monday, October the 16th, 1995. I'm a living, breathing witness. I saw this. I experienced this. The love that we experienced on that day, I've never felt anything like it in my life. I haven't felt anything before that. I haven't, to be honest, felt anything like that since that time. It was a living, breathing miracle that only Allah could bring about, but it came as a result of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and those who served with him, working literally night and day and day and night. And I thank Allah that I was a part of that historic day, brother. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And I could never thank Allah enough for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan blessing a brother from the hells of Baltimore, Maryland, to be a part of something so magnificent as the Million Man March in 1995. It was the miracle that only Allah could bring about. And he did just that. And the enemy lied, as you know, and said it was 200,000 or 300,000. And Brother Leonard and your father and others went to work to dispel that foolishness. And they had to tell the truth that there were nearly 2 million men on the mall until this very moment. They can't explain how it happened because they had nothing to do with it. It was Allah in the name of the Eternal Father. And remember, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told us that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to him, dear brother, there will be 2 of us backing you up, Allah and myself. I'm a living witness that the two that back him up have more juice in the universe than the whole universe combined. And all praise is due to Allah for the miracle that was the Million Man March in 1995.
Excellent, and praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. And thank you all for your comments and your messages, Brother Fontaine. Now,
Yes,
I got 2 points to make.
I'm listening. Take your time.
Yes, sir. You said you came up from Baltimore, the hills of Baltimore. Now, most of us don't know anything about Baltimore except for what we saw on the HBO television show The Wire. So,
wow.
Is it that rough, or is it exaggerated when you were coming up from, like, in Baltimore?
No. The Wire did it a lot of justice, to be very honest, but The Wire couldn't explain the hells of Baltimore. Baltimore was this type of city. It's a small city. It's a gritty city. It's a mean city. It carried the title of murder capital for quite a long time. The murder capital of America in Baltimore. It also carried the title. We had a street, Emerson and Monroe, which became one of our great soldiering streets in the city of Baltimore, Maryland. It was one of the biggest drug trafficking areas in America. And so in order to survive in Baltimore, you had to have some grit. You had to have some strength. You had to have some balance. You had to be able to fight. You had to be able to survive. And so imagine, I'm 5'3". And so as a young person, I wasn't a fighter. I didn't want to fight nobody. And one day there I was running home from a bully. And when I turned the corner, again, I'm 5 or 6 years old, couldn't have been no more than that. And my father, who was a straight warrior, may Allah be pleased with him forever. He's the wind beneath my wings and the person who I will cherish and treasure every day of my life. He was sitting on the steps. And my father, before I could answer, he started saying to me, "What's wrong?" And before I could answer, this boy was running behind me. And my father looked at me and he said, "You're running from somebody?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And my father said, "Oh, brother, ain't gonna be no running up in here." And I said, "Yes, sir." And my father looked at me, and before I knew it, my father was calling out his father. My father's a killer. His father's a killer. It's a serious situation going down as we speak. And I'm a 5 or 6 year old baby. And my father said, "If you want to fight my son, then let's fight." And you know, most of us grow up just like this. My father looked me in the face and said, "Either you beat his, you know what, or I'm gonna beat yours." And that was all she wrote. And we were out there rumbling like Mike Tyson, George Foreman, Ali Frazier. It was that serious out there, John. I'm talking about rumbling, brother. And
yes,
this boy, he was a killer. He was a killer, and he was a child. You know, it's in our DNA. You know, it's what your parents bring, what you see, what's in your environment that shapes you into who you are. And this boy was already on that path. And we had those big Michael Jackson bushes at the time, Brother Joshua, and he had my hair in his hand, and he was getting the best of me. And I'll never forget it. My father grabbed me in the back of my shirt, break it up, and broke us apart and pushed me to my mother. And my father said to my mother, "You better put his hand 3 plats, and you better not waste no damn time." And my mother was literally shaking. I mean, because my mother's out there, his mother's out there, my father out there, his father's out there, uncles and cousins and people watching. And at a point, if this wasn't settled between us, it was going to be something between the adults. And my mother literally was shaking like this, Josh, and she put my hand 3 plats. And my father pushed me back out there, and by God's grace, I was blessed to destroy this little boy. And when destroying, you know, and it was like that in Baltimore, Josh. And when we got finished rumbling, my father looked at me. I'm talking about busted eyes, bloody knuckles, hands, lip busted. You know, it was just that type of situation. And my father looked at me and he said, "You're a little man, right?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You don't have time to play with nobody. The first thing you do is you warn a mother, you know what." He said, "And after you warned them, right?" I said, "Yes, sir." Then he said, "You take one step back and you watch them. And if their fingers twitch like you think they're going to swing, you swing first." I said, "Yes, sir." That was the order of the day. That's how we lived in Baltimore. And then after my mother made her transition, again, I was 11 years of age. My sister was 6, my brother was 3. And my father, may Allah be pleased with him forever, he had pretty much a mental breakdown. And after my mother died, he really disappeared, to be very honest. And so we went to live with our maternal grandmother, whose name was Marie Janoris Williams, and she was a beautiful woman. But we grew up in hell. We went from a semblance of a home with a mother, a father, and, you know, the drinking, the smoking, the ghetto life, but we had a home. But after my mother died, my father disappeared. Here we were with my maternal grandmother, who we loved very much. And she raised all of us. She had 13 children of her own. many of her grands and her children were still living with her. So we went from a semblance of a home to a home with 30, 40, 50 people in it at a time, fighting, stabbing, shooting, drinking, killing. I mean, just this madness beyond your wildest imagination. And so we lived that type of life. And at a point, when the wintertime came in Chicago, they have like a Nightcore and People's Gas. In Baltimore, they have BG&E, Baltimore Gas and Electric. So when one of your services got cut, they both were cut simultaneously. And so imagine me, my brother, my sister, my cousins whom I loved and helped rear and raise and love. We just lived without gas and electric almost every winter for many, many winters. And so we would do what is called the John Wayne bath, where you run some water and it's in the total winter time. And you had to count 1, 2, 3, and you jump in and you just do what you do right quick and you jump out. And that's the way we lived our lives. We survived. No food, many times eating bubble gum and penny candy. And imagine eating bubble gum. As many who are listening right now, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Eating bubble gum to solve your stomach from yearning for food. And then we would take it, put it on top of the bed, and then in the morning get up, dip it in some sugar, put it back in your mouth and start the day all over again. That's the type of life that we live. And so those vacant houses that you saw on The Wire and shooting and killing, and man, that was a day-to-day reality. I'll close that point by saying this. I remember in 1985 or 86 when crack began to affect America. I can remember it like it was yesterday, because right where we were living at, which was at 21 South Fulton Avenue at the time, there was an abandoned building on the opposite. Our home was here. The abandoned building was across the street. There was a 3-lane street, and there was an abandoned building. And I can remember the brothers were coming down from New York. They used to say, the New York boys are here. The New York boys are coming. And they would come down and they would set up shop literally it was like on TV. And there would be hundreds and hundreds of our poor brothers and sisters who were strung out on crack. And they would come to this location right in front of our house. And I would be sitting there as a teenager, just watching this, not quite understanding what I'm actually watching. And they would take the vials and they would throw some up in the air, and the brothers and sisters would go crazy and trying to pick up what they could off the ground. And they would be out there with guns and standing in the street with guns. And then they would line up and everybody would line up, and then they would serve everybody. And then it would like a business, and then everybody would disappear. And then a few hours later, it would do it all over again. And this is the reality of Black life. This is the reality that our people are suffering every single day in every city and town in America. And this is what makes the mission of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan so vitally important. Our people are dying every single day. While we're talking right now, someone is being raped, robbed, carjacked, homes being invaded, somebody's virgin daughter is being taken advantage of, somebody's son is being initiated, somebody's daughter is being initiated, somebody's being turned on to crack that they think is reefer. The reefer is weaponized in and of itself, but then they're mixing it. Imagine going to a party, you think you're smoking a stick of reefer, and they didn't put some crack inside of it. So the baby you sent home to school in the 9th grade, 8th grade, who thinks he's experimenting and smoking a joint, now he smoked something laced with crack. Crack now is a drug that will drive you damn near out of your mind. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us, Brother Joshua, that it's a chemically manufactured, it's a man-made drug, literally prepared by chemists of death. That's why we can't fathom, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, you can't fathom the depth of Satan. Somebody sits down, creates these drugs, and they keep you high for 5 to 7 minutes at a time, and it's $10 a whop. Can you imagine sending your baby to school? They make a mistake and they ingest this. Now they don't know what's happening with them because the chemicals have taken over. They're yearning for this drug. They're on the hunt for this drug. And they're not the same child anymore because they need that $10. And at a point, they'll rob their mother, they'll rob their father, they will kill somebody to get that drug. And it only keeps you high for 5 to 7 minutes at a time. We're dealing with Satan and all of his imps. And this is why Minister Farrakhan's work is so important. And yes, Baltimore was just like The Wire, but worse. And it's like that in California. It's like that in Cincinnati. It's like that in the ATL. It's like that in Houston, Texas. It's like that in Miami, Florida. The conspiracy to destroy our people is real. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is not making this up. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is not making this up. This is the reality of Black life. And that's why we thank Allah for coming in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. He didn't send nobody. And fulfilling the promise that he made to Abraham, he said, Abraham, know of a surety that your seed will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. They will be in bondage to a stranger 400 years. But know that after that time, I will come, God talking, and I will judge that nation that they have served, and they will come out with great substance. Well, we're at that point right now. We are those people. And so, as crazy as we are in Baltimore, as crazy as we are all over America, we are the very choice of God. And as a result of our unique suffering, we're going to be blessed in a very unique way. And when this is all said and done, we are the material that God will use to bring about an entire universal change. And I thank Allah to be in the engine of our nation where I can be a part of spreading this message that once you hear it, it will change your life in an instant. It will literally redirect and reconstruct your DNA, where the crack that you used to smoke, I'm not interested in that crap. Where the drugs you used to sell and the life you used to live, you don't want to live that life anymore, because you understand now that you are a literal God, a child of the Most High God. And so, yeah, Baltimore was rough. I thank Allah for the experience. It made me the man that I am today. But I thank Allah for the day that I heard the voice of the literal vicar of Christ, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He saved my life, Brother Joshua.
Praise be to Allah. He saved mine as well, and saved many others. Brother Fontaine, I have a question. Thank you all for your comments and showing your love too, Brother Fontaine. And Brother Fontaine, you're getting a lot of love. Yes, sir. You said, now because you came from Baltimore and you dealt with such a background, when you were traveling around the country and around the world with the Most High Mr. Louis Farrakhan, doing your job and your mission, was there ever a time that you felt a threat on your life, or maybe because you had a threat on the minister's life, you was in a certain environment that you didn't want to go into?
No, to be very honest, Brother Joshua, and some may say, man, are you bragging or you just talking? But to be very honest, dear brother, every day of my life, we're in danger. You know, every day that you're walking with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is public enemy number one to Satan, his life is in danger 7 days a week. And so are ours. If we're with him and we're striving to aid him, to help him, and to follow in his footsteps, we all are in danger. But to be very honest, I've never had a situation in this nation that I felt as though I was intimidated. I didn't want to go. I was thinking about not going. I was timid. Brother, please. There's nothing ever that intimidated me to the point that I was going to leave my man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in a position and I didn't go. I've been blessed not to miss no trips. I'm not trying to miss nothing. Wherever he is where I want to be. Wherever he stands, I want to be standing right next to him. And if you're foolish enough to attempt to take the life of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, my aim and my prayer is that I'm the one who takes that bullet so he can survive. I'm the one who wants to take that gunshot. And more importantly, if you try to take the life of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I pray that Allah will bless me to be one of those brothers that can take the gun from your hand and use that gun in the manner in which you had planned for our beloved minister. I pray that I'm one of those brothers who is strong enough to survive such an onslaught, to deal with any and every aggressor against the man who saved our lives, and to deal with them accordingly. And so, no, I felt danger. I mean, I'm always in danger. Hell, you in danger. Every single Black man and woman in the nation and in America is in danger. Every day we walk out of our homes, we should not walk out without saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, and beg his mercy as we step out to go to the corner store, the grocery store, the gas station, wherever you're moving. Never move without the grace and the blessing and the prayer to Almighty God, for without him, we don't stand a chance. And so, no, I've never felt fear in moving with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I stand right next to him whenever I can. I love being with him. And I believe me, brother, it's almost like you go into a trance. When you're with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the comfort that Allah gives you by standing with him and being willing to lay down your life for him and for this cause, it gives you strength like Hercules. You don't even know how strong you really are. And again, I'm 5'3". I'm not running from anyone when it comes to standing with and standing up for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And may I say to every single believer, every single sympathizer, and every single supporter, none of us are perfect. None of us are 100% righteous. And so we don't allow that to interfere with our desire to do what Allah is pleased with. You may be down today, get back up and get back on your post. Our post, we have to walk that post in a perfect manner, keeping always on the alert. And right now, the life of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is in deep danger. And only Allah, in the name of his Christ, along with the help of the true believers, we can do our part. But Allah and his Christ are going to bless him, protect him, comfort him, strengthen him, aid him, and help him to escape the death plot that is on him as we speak. And guess what? As I close that point, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us just like this. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said to him, brother, if Allah can't save me, that's a sign that he can't save you. And then the minister looks at us and says, if Allah can't save me, then hell, that's a sign he can't save any of us. I'm confident that Allah will save his man. And I'm confident that if we stand with his man and we're faithful to the truth that we have been given, Allah will save each and every one of us. No, I've never been afraid in that way, dear brother. And when we get a little afraid and the heart gets to pounding and jumping, and the minister teaches us to challenge that fear. We get a little nervous here and there, and we may get afraid at times, but you challenge that fear and you call on Allah. And when we do that and we call on Allah, the fear that's in us, Allah takes that fear from us and puts it right on the enemy. And they find themselves fumbling, bumbling, stumbling, and falling to pieces right in front of the invincible men of God, the invincible women of God, and that are those of us who say we believe.
Excellent, and praise be to Allah. Thank you all for your comments and excellent response, Brother Fontaine. My next question is, we see how the Most Honorable Louis Farrakhan is received in America. Many of us have been able to see it firsthand or somehow in video. You've been blessed to travel overseas with the Most Honorable Louis Farrakhan. How has the reception been, and how has your experience been overseas?
Well, I'll be honest, I have only been blessed to travel overseas about 4 times. The first time I went was in 1994, where we went to Accra, Ghana, one of the greatest experiences of my life. And I'm going to find the photo. There's a few photos from Ghana, but imagine we went there with the man of God. He was received as a head of state. He's literally received that way all over the world, and we have the footage of it. And we put out one DVD so far of the World Friendship Tour, but I'm talking about it's a smidgen of what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan really has. I mean, there's so much footage that by Allah's grace, we're working on it as we speak. We're putting it together, God willing, as we speak. We're digitizing and doing our best to bring to life what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has done. But my first experience in Ghana, it was an overwhelming reception, one of the biggest events that I've ever been a part of in my life. And they received our minister just like we receive them in Harlem, just like we receive him in Chicago, just like we receive him in Atlanta, Georgia. It was overwhelming, unbelievably beautiful, and he is loved, respected, and handled with the greatest care. And so the scripture says a prophet is not without honor except in his own home. And I'm not saying he's a prophet. That's a small title. He's much more than that. But at the end of the day, what I'm simply saying is he is received with tremendous honor all over the world. And he showed us that at Savior's Day 2019, when for the first time, he brought out some of the gifts and explained what those gifts meant, as he brought out the cloak from the Abona Sheikh, who's, over millions of people all over the Islamic world. He gives the minister his staff. He gives the minister his coat. What are we talking about here? Then he shows you all type of other gifts that they put on his head. Then he shows you the sword that was given to him, giving him rulership of the people that it's so huge. It's beyond anything that we can really imagine. And so we're walking with an international man of God. We're walking with the third most powerful being in the entire universe. And we have to simply come to grips with this. How many more miracles must the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan perform in order for us to say, maybe he is backed by God? Brother and sister, come on now, let's be real. Here's a black man in America not carrying as much as a penknife, speaking to the most powerful beast that the world has ever known, the most powerful government in the last 6,000 years. They murder leaders of nations, and you have seen this over and over and over again, but they have not been able to dethrone or to murder the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, although they have tried on multiple occasions. You have to know that a God is backing him. And I say again, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad told our beloved minister, two of us will be backing you up, Allah and myself. Then he said, brother, they have laid many traps for you. You will trip them up, but you won't get caught in one of them. And so I was in Jamaica with our beloved minister. I saw the same thing in Jamaica just a few years ago. Overwhelming response, overwhelming reception, overwhelming love. I've been with the minister in Canada, the same thing, but I haven't been blessed as some to travel all over the world as your father has. He has seen miracles all over the world, but I have heard the war stories. I believe each and every one of them. And what I saw with my own eyes, we're walking with the third most powerful being and the third most humble human being. He's the most humble man that you will ever meet in your life. And now he is being elevated in a way that we're going to have to come to grips with it, whether we want to come to grips with it or not. At a point in time, we're there right now, and we will see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan ascend, for he has a rendezvous with destiny, and that rendezvous is closer than we may know.
Excellent. Thank you all for your comments, and thank you for your great response, Brother Fontaine. Brother Fontaine, on a lighter note, what do you do for fun?
Brother Joshua, to be very honest, and my wife is probably going to listen to this at some point in time. Brother, I don't even know what fun is. And I have to say this because it could be me, and maybe it's a lot of other believers out there just like me. Me and my wife were talking just recently, been blessed to be married to my baby now for 18 years. We've never taken a vacation. I don't even know what a vacation is. And every time I think about taking one, the fear of leaving the entity, leaving the city, being away from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is something happens to him, something happens at the final call. It all but drives me insane. I don't know how to have traditional fun, but what I did get, and I'm gonna tell you how I got it. I started running marathons, but let me tell you how that came about. I had went down, as you know, Brother Joshua, I went through a tremendous trial in the year 2000, and I had not sat down since I was 21 years of age. I'd never been overweight in my adult life, or really since I was a teenager. I'd never been fat, never had as much as an extra pound on me. But as a result of going down under this horrific trial in the year 2000, when Allah blessed me out of his grace and his mercy to return home to our great nation, I tried to put on one of my suits that had a three-piece suit like this. And when I attempted to put my vest on, man, my stomach was like busting out of the vest. I couldn't fit it. And I was like, man, what's happening here? I didn't even realize that from sitting down for that 1 year, I had gained about 20 or 30 pounds. One day, I'm blessed to be back at the final call. I was blessed to return on December the 2nd, 2002, by Allah's grace and his mercy, thanks to the generosity and the love of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And one day, our beloved minister comes to the final call, and I'm on the second floor at this time. I'm blessed to serve as customer service manager. And the minister comes in and he's touring the building as he had done many times with me in my first stint from 1993 to 2000. And here I am now. I'm on the second floor. He had already given me the greetings. He had already given the staff that I was over as customer service manager the greetings. And our beloved minister is on the third floor. Now, imagine what I'm about to say to you, Joshua. He's on the third floor. You know what the final call looks like. Our beloved minister leans over the banister. I'm here on the second floor. The minister leans over the banister like this, and he hollers down, Brother Fontaine. I said, yes, sir, dear minister. He said, brother, you look like you gained some weight there. I said, now everybody's listening. The whole building is at attention. Everybody's watching this. And the minister said, brother, you look like you gained a little weight there. You're a little fat, huh? And I said, yes, sir. Then the minister said, brother, if you fat like that, when I get back, when I return, he said, I'm going to bake you in the oven. I said, yes, sir. Brother, woo, brother. I'm in front of the whole building, E-team members, staff, brother. And I said, good God Almighty. And I was overweight. I didn't know how to lose the weight. And there was a beautiful sister who was working in the accounting department. Her name at that time was Sister Paula. Now her name is Sister Nasira. And Sister Nasira had run a marathon the year before. And so I said, my God, I got to figure out what do I need to do to lose this weight. And Sister Nasira said, won't you come on and get involved in this marathon training? I had never run a marathon, didn't know what running was, didn't know about none of that. Because in the nation, all I knew how to do was what we do. And so imagine when I was down, let me digress a little bit. When I was down, Josh, in that little year, I didn't even know what, I mean, I was so serious about this teaching, but I didn't even know what TV was. I didn't know what, like the TV shows, the reality shows, like Road Rules and Sex in the City. And man, there was so many shows on TV. Literally, I didn't even know what TV was. We worked like that. Your father was one. We worked 18, 19, 20 hours a day, every day of our lives. I didn't know what TV was. I didn't even know what a bath was, brother. All I was doing was taking showers. We were like, man, just zealot crazy. That's all I knew. So I in shower, take a shower, get out. But as I was in this downtime, I ain't have nothing but time. So my only refuge was to sit in the bathtub and sit there and listen to gospel music and Yolanda Adams. And man, I would just sit there and listen to Donnie McClurkin. And brother, I'd just be in the tub crying and thinking about what I had done and why I got myself in this position and begging God for his grace and begging him for his mercy. And all of that was real. So when I got back home, there I was. I had gained weight. I didn't know what to do. And I started with this marathon training. And my first year, they train you from scratch. And so 2004 was my first year. And I started running, brother. And I finished my first marathon and I was hooked. And from 2004 all the way up to this recent year, I was running marathons. And that was my joy. That was my love. That was what I did to find peace, to find comfort. And running for me was, man, just the most beautiful gift that God had given me in quite a long time. So as far as relaxation and going to movies and hanging out, every now and then me and my wife will go to a movie or something like that. But we both are confined in the way of Islam. And it's very difficult, to be very honest. And as of now, we've been talking about a vacation, but every time we talk about a vacation, the reality of what we do kicks in. We are blessed to serve at the pleasure of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And for me, nothing else is more important than doing whatever it takes to ensure that whatever he wants, whatever he needs, whatever the final call needs, it's gotten to, it's done, it's taken care of. And as we're under this blistering assault on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we have to understand we represent that word. And so the assault that's on him as a result of speaking that word has to fall upon the engine of our nation, because that's where the word emanates from, and that's where the babies are made. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speaks, and then it's our responsibility to make that word flesh on the internet, via DVD, CD, MP3, social media, etc. It's a 24-hour job, but one that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. But I'm going to figure out a way to have some fun. I'm going to figure out a way to take a vacation, God willing, sooner or later. And by Allah's grace, that time will come. But in the mean and the between, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I wish I could do it even more, because 24 hours is just not enough to get done the resurrection work that we're blessed to be responsible for. And let me say this about your dad, Josh, and I'll come off that point. Your father was one just like this. I was blessed to hang and spend quality time serving with your father for 7 years. And I'm going to say this very honestly. I'd never seen a man work like your father in my life. I've never seen, imagine this. We spent time, we would go to the movies. We would go and eat together. The minister would call your father at any point in time. I've never seen your father as much as suck his teeth. I'm going to say this again, because people may not quite understand this. I've never seen Abdul Sharif Muhammad do as much as this. Oh, man, I got a call. No, brother. Never, ever have I seen him as much as suck his teeth. I've never seen your father with his eyes red. And I'm talking about we soldiered 17, 18, 19, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've been on post with your father as Allah is my witness, and I'm on security. And I'm talking about he's speaking, I'm standing on post, and you're so tired. You ever did just, Josh, when you're on post and you literally fall asleep and you do one of them right there, and you damn, you got to, I mean, literally, I mean, you on post, and I'm talking about, man, you, whoo, and you, oh, geez, Lord have mercy, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. That's how serious the grind was. That's how serious this work was. And I thank Allah for your father, brother, the good that your father laid in my heart, mind, and soul for the love of Islam. is so serious. It outweighs anything that could be considered a negative. And for me, and I'll say this openly and to the world, there's not a thing in this world that I could say negative about Abdul Sharif Muhammad, because the good that he taught this little soldier right here so thoroughly outweighs anything that could be considered negative. I couldn't talk about it if I wanted to. Never have, never will. It would be meaningless. It would be childish. It would be disrespectful. It would be a person who would just be unappreciative of the good that a man showed you, taught you. And he didn't just talk about it, he led me and showed me how to grind and how to get work done in this nation. Your father is the one, and I'll close this point. He's the one who affectionately started calling me Johnny. Never had a nickname in my life. The only ones who called me by a name was my family in Baltimore, and they called me Fon. Fon. That's the only name I've ever had as far as a nickname. But it was your father who called me Johnny Fontaine. And Johnny Fontaine, as you know, is the adopted son of the Godfather in those Godfather trilogies. But it was your dad who began to call me Johnny Fontaine, and people began to call me Johnny all over the nation. But it was your father who taught people to respect the final call, respect the engine. He called it the bridge. And in order for you to get the words, you had to come over that bridge. And the bridge was little brother Fontaine. And so he built respect for me. He built love of the brotherhood for his little brother. And he knew I was dead serious about the work. He knew I was dead serious about trying to propagate the faith. And I love him, and I'll carry him and cherish him every day of my life until the day Allah takes the breath out of my life. So I say, long live Abdul Sharif Muhammad. Long live your beloved mother, Sharifa Muhammad, who I love, honor, and respect. And for your family, dear brother, I have nothing but the deepest love and care. And I say, may Allah continue to bless you, bless your family in every possible way.
All praise to Allah, man. We love you as well and love your family as well, Brother Fontaine. Speaking of my family, my sister Mimi said, please tell Brother Fontaine to take a, you and your wife should take a vacation. You all both deserve it. And
yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, sir. Your sister Tracy says, this is a powerful testimony. Brother Fontaine Muhammad is my brother in both blood and faith, and makes my heart proud to see that he makes that sacrifice. Wow. And it's not in vain, and he loves this work and this way of life, and is undoubtedly loves our dear minister and the mighty saviors that are backing him. All praises to Allah for our beautiful nation of Islam. We may not be perfect, but we are perfect for this time. Thank you, Brother Joshua, for my brother in this opportunity to sit and bear witness of the mercy of Allah. Anytime, Sister Tracy, we love you and your family as well.
Wow.
Excellent. Okay, Brother Fontaine, our next question is dealing with the final call and the advancement of social media and things of this nature. How do we better help get the word out in an age where everything is digital?
Brother Joshua, that's a beautiful question, and it's very timely. Let me say this: back in December of 2018, I was blessed to be called to a meeting by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he was doing the recording that was going to be sent to someone on his behalf. And he was doing it. And after he finished it, a brother asked our beloved minister a question. And the minister responded to the question. I won't go into the whole thing, but it was a serious conversation. In the midst of that conversation, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan began to talk about social media. And he said to the brother who asked him for an interview, he said, brother, I wouldn't give you an interview, basically a one-on-one. He said, if I were to give an interview, I would do it with our young brothers and sisters from YouTube. So as fast as I gave it to you, they would have it also to upload to the world. And I'm sitting there and listening to my beloved minister. And then he says, Brother Fontaine, I want you to make every message that I have available on the internet. Make every message that I have available on the internet. I said, yes, sir. And then he said, I don't want to hear nothing about nobody talking about YouTube and so on and so on. He said, if I left it up to you all to get the message out, he said, the message will be sitting exactly where it is, sitting in the basement of the final call, collecting dust. He said, I don't want to hear none of that. I want every message up on the internet. And I looked at our beloved minister and I said, dear minister, I promise you, I will do exactly what you said. He said, I hope so. I said, I promise you on my one and only life that I will do exactly what you said, sir. The minister moves on. I come out of the palace, brother, I'm spinning. I couldn't even get back to the final call to do a Facebook Live. I went immediately in my car. But let me back up a little bit. In this conversation, the minister says, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad told me that if nobody would carry out my instructions and do what I'm asking them to do, that Allah had prepared a contraption for me, that I would go right over their heads and into the heads and into the hearts of our people. This is part of the conversation. When I leave the palace, I literally get in the car. I couldn't even get to the final call. I pulled over, I did a Facebook Live, and I asked everybody, the believers in particular, people of goodwill all over America and throughout the world, would you please help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? Would you help me to do what he just asked me to do? Will you put up tasteful clips, put up full lectures? You can do whatever you want to do, but be tasteful. Don't have him in midstream. Don't have him in a sound bite like the enemy would do. Let him have expression. So if he's making a point, let that point be made. Give him a beginning, a middle, and an end. But the instruction was clear. Put up everything that I have on the internet. Well, why would he say that? Because he understands that his job is to propagate the faith all over America and throughout the world. We can't do that holding it close to our vest. One of the first lessons that I was taught as a baby Muslim in 1993, as a baby general manager, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had just written his beautiful book entitled A Torchlight for America. He had just spoken at the World Parliament of Religions here in Chicago. And he told me to take those books, take those audio tapes, and go down to the hotel and make them available to the people. Well, I'm brand new. I don't understand how to make handshakes, how to create relationships, how to get inside of a hotel, how to negotiate a room and space and whatnot. I go down there raw as hell, and I'm in there just trying to make it happen. I got escorted, right? Get your butt out of here. They escorted me right out the hotel because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have permission. Well, I get back to the palace, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan asked me, how did it go? I told him pretty much what I just told you. And he said, oh, no, Brother Fontaine. He said, son, you should have given those away. He said, you should have given away every book and every audio tape that you have. He said, brother, do you know they would have went all over the world? He said, it's called casting the bread on the water, brother. He said, you should have given them away. So from the very beginning in my infancy at the final call, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been guiding me to make this message available in a very effective and serious, continuous way. Well, just recently, as I became general manager again in 2009, one of the first lessons that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught me again was, Brother Fontaine, don't focus on profit, focus on the people. And if you focus on the people, the profit will come. Well, I didn't understand it at the time because he was asking me to reduce the price of the videotapes, DVDs at that time. They were 20 and he wanted them reduced. The CDs were 10, he wanted them reduced. So what I did, I reduced them in half. Well, our beloved minister accepted that, but he wasn't happy. He really wanted at that time for the DVD to be $5 and he wanted the CD to be $2 or less. And I said, oh, dear minister, if we go that low, we're going to basically be out of business. We won't even be able to make charity or buy supplies and raw material. And he accepted that. But then about 2 weeks later, I'm blessed to be at another laborers meeting. And the minister says to me, Brother Fontaine, the word of our Father really should be free. He said, no one should have to pay for the word of salvation, brother. I said, yes, sir. Well, this kind of training has been ongoing for a long time. And I think I finally got the point. And so now here we are in this modern day of technology, this modern day of contraptions called Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapping and all of these other things like we're doing right now. This is modern technology. And so the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan now desires that we make this life-saving message available to the earth. And there is nothing on the earth that will stop me and that will stop us. So Brother Jesse is the general of the Twitter army. He has a job to do. He's the general of that Facebook army. It's a tremendous responsibility. And all of us who have social media, we also have a responsibility. And that's not to use it for foolishness. It's to use it to help spread this life-saving and invincible truth all over the world. And so I thank Allah for Facebook. I thank Allah for Twitter. I thank Allah for Instagram. I thank Allah for this live platform that we're on right now that enables us to spread this message far and wide. We literally can talk to the world as we speak. And so it's a duty and a responsibility to use our social media platforms to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the propagation of the faith. And God willing, we will inspire our brothers and sisters to pick up on this wise. Let's go forward. If you have clips, if you know how to put tasteful little music behind the clip that can reach a young brother and sister who's in the ghetto, who knows how to bop their head to a beat, but they don't know they're listening to foolishness. Most of us know songs right now that don't make a lick of sense, but the beat was so attractive. You're listening to the beat, and then you're taking in all of this funk and this filth and this stupidity all at the same time. Why don't we use our creative juices to put into light Islam, the life-saving teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that we can change the condition of our people. It can happen overnight if we go to work and go to work now, because the crucifixion of our beloved man really is closer than we think. And the enemy is ready to pounce on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and to actually take his life. They won't be successful. They weren't successful in snuffing out the life of our eternal Father. They don't believe it. But for those of us who believe, and more importantly, those of us who know that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad escaped the death plot, he's the one making rain, hail, snow, and earthquake as we speak. And remember, at Savior's Day 2019, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan made it very clear. Master Farad Muhammad, the teacher of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, is not even controlling the weather. He's left that to his man. And our man, every time the minister says, watch the weather, before he can get it out of his mouth, boom, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is bringing exactly what he asked him to bring. So they're now coming up with new words, bomb, cyclone, and polar vortex. And man, the breadbasket of America right now is sunk under, feet and feet and feet and feet of water as we speak. Livestock buried in mud. And it's going to get worse, because as the enemy continues to plot on the life of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Allah and his Christ are continually dealing with them. And so social media is important, brothers and sisters. Can we use it? We can use it day and night. If you're up and you're just going to the restroom, most of us take our phone with us. It's like it's a damn extra arm for us now. We don't even know how to live without it. So if you're walking around with 3 arms and you got your phone in your hand all the time, won't you just share? Go to Minister Louis Farrakhan's Facebook page and share, 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 and don't stop sharing until you can't share anymore. Because as you know, they just banned our secret relationship series from Amazon. That's just a start. They're going to do more. So we're asking people to come to store.finalcall.com, and we're going to do our very best, as I close that point, to improve our customer service. That when you place an order, you place it on a Monday, we want to ship it on Tuesday, no later than Wednesday, for you to have it in your arsenal within 3 to 5 days. And we really want to say 3 to 5 with the thought of you having it in 2. That's our aim. That's our purpose. And we intend to outwork the enemy, outflank the enemy, outthink the enemy. And we intend to spread this message all over the earth. Social media, thank you so much. You have made our lives a better place. And we're going to use it for what it should be used for. And that is to help spread wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So I love social media, Brother Joshua, and I'm going to learn how to use it better. You just taught me something tonight. I didn't know how to do what you're doing right now, but you taught me something. I'm grateful.
Excellent. Thank you all for your comments, and thank you again, Brother Fontaine. For Fontaine, we have a few more questions.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. First of all, what's up, Dade County? I see you, one of my brothers from college. I see you checking in. What's going on, bro? This podcast costs money, and I want to thank my sister Mimi and her book ABC I Love Me for sponsoring this podcast. And this
yes, sir.
She said she would make sure that my parents send a greet to you as well, Brother Fontaine, and my family sends their love as well.
Oh, brother, please return it with so much joy. Return it, please.
Yes, sir. Brother Fontaine, we want to thank you all also for using Facebook Live, and a lot of times when minister speaks that we don't even know he's going to speak, and it's like, Brother Fontaine, Mama's going live, boom, and we got it that quick. We want to thank you for that, because you helped us out.
Yes, sir.
It's
an honor. It's an honor.
Yes, sir. And can you please let the Most High Mr. Farrakhan know that anything that we can do to continue his work with social media and getting him to the younger generation, we would do so as well.
I promise. And Josh, before you go further, let me say this. I was blessed right before I came on your show. We're working on a very beautiful message, God willing, that will be made available from our beloved minister either tonight or first thing tomorrow. We're asking everyone to be prepared for an exclusive message from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We haven't heard his voice. We have not seen him since Savior's Day, February the 17th. But we have some very important announcements from him, and you will see him live and you will hear his voice. And I asked our beloved minister, as I do every single time, I never play with this. And I said, dear beloved minister, I'm going to be doing, by Allah's grace, the show with Brother Joshua Muhammad. He's out of Atlanta. He's been working with a lot of our pioneers and doing a wonderful job. May I have your permission to extend the greetings to all of those who may listen from near and far, sir? And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, yes, sir. And I was so grateful. And so, Brother Joshua, to you, to your family, to all of those who are watching, to all of those who may watch this at a later time, I extend to you the noble and humble greetings of Assalamu Alaikum from your beloved, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan of Assalamu Alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir. And please give the greetings to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Brother Fontaine.
I promise I will. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Excellent. Our next question is, what advice would you give to future fathers, Brother Fontaine?
Whoa, major question. Now, Brother Joshua, you're talking to a brother that's been through relationship hell. And I'll be very honest, brother, I could teach probably 2 or 3 lectures and never even pause in the name of relationship and relationship drama. I've been through hell, and I've learned a lot as a result of the mistakes that I've made. I've grown as a result of errors and mistakes. And one early one, I can remember this as a young parent, going through a divorce. We don't understand the seriousness of what a divorce represents. So in the Holy Quran, Allah says he'll permit it, but he hates divorce, because the realities that come about as a result of us making that decision are catastrophic. And me, I've made it. And so as a young person, I was blessed to be with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I was blessed to be living with him. And I was going through a divorce, and the minister I was already out of the home at that point, but I was going through a divorce. Me and Tawana were separated, and we were going through something. And the minister would see me. It's happened 3 different times, Brother Joshua. And one time the minister saw me and he said, Brother Fontaine, he said, hey, son. I said, yes, sir. He said, how's my grandsons? And I told him they doing as best they could. And he looked at me and he said, brother, you can't imagine the mental damage that you're doing to your children while y'all are going through this mess. You can't imagine the mental damage that you're doing to your children. I said, yes, sir. Didn't understand it. Another time he saw me, similar, same question. Then he used this word. You can't imagine the mental torture that you're putting your children through while y'all are going through this divorce. You can't imagine. The third time, he either used the same word. It was either torture or damage. But imagine what I'm saying to you. And this is exactly what our children experience. They suffer damage, and they're in hell as a result of you and I, as the adults, making decisions for selfish reasons in most cases, because we're doing something that we don't have no business doing. And then before you know it, the love is lost. And when there's no love in the relationship, the love the minister teaches us is the mortar that you put between the bricks to build your relationship. And when there's no love there, there's nothing to build upon in the marriage, and the relationship fails. As a young father, I didn't understand any of that, but I loved my sons. I loved them with all of my heart, but I made mistakes that caused them enormous pain that we're still experiencing to this very moment in time. I'm 51 years of age, and me and my son see each other at this very moment. We still cry. We still see each other. I'm talking about right now. When we see each other, we break down and cry. When we leave one another, we still hug each other and we cry as though they're 5 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. And I want you to understand this, brothers and sisters. Our children are dependent on us. They're depending on us to hold together the relationship, because the relationship is what they know. They grew up loving both of us. They don't understand when one goes one way and one goes the other way. And I can remember going to get my children after a divorce, and I had gotten remarried. And I'm being blunt and honest. And anybody that knows Brother Fontaine, they'll say that brother tell all his business. Well, guess what? I don't have any business. The enemy already knows my business. And more importantly, Allah already knows my business. So why would I be hiding from you? It makes no sense. And if I can say something that will make a difference in your life, I'm going to be the one to say it. And so I went to pick up my sons for the first time. And when I went to pick them up, I can remember it like yesterday. I'm holding Wali in one hand and Akbar in another hand, and both of them are holding Tawana, who's their mom, in the other hand. And I'm pulling and they're pulling, and both of them are confused, and I'm confused. She's confused. I'm crying. They're crying. And then you take them out of that environment, and they're confused and shattered from that moment on, because they want to be with both of us. And they can't, because we've made a decision that we can't be together anymore. And the children are the ones who absolutely suffer because of the decisions that we as the adults make. And so when that happened, it never got better. And we've been crying like that now for nearly this is in 1995. And to this very moment, we still suffer from that same pain as though it happened yesterday. So I say to every father, settle down to a good choice. And I'll say this to every single brother. All of us have a sex drive. All of us have a desire for this, that, and the other. But the courtship process in the nation is serious, and we should follow it. What does courtship mean? Courting means this: asking questions as though you're in court. You have to be like an attorney, and you want to sit down, not make an emotional decision because a person is handsome or a sister is beautiful. You want to ask some questions. How did you come into the teachings? What do you think about the teachings? What's your aspirations in life? What do you plan on being in the next 5 years, 10 years? What's your goals in life? Have you been to prison? You have? Okay. Have you been this? Have you been that? What were you in the past? What about? And you have to get into this a little bit, because you get into something not understanding marriage is a two-way reality. And so if I grew up and I like it hot and you like it cold, well, we're going to have a compromise. But if we didn't ask that question and you don't know, I hate the AC and you hate heat, well, how are we going to make this work? Because I'm in the house, I got the damn heat on 90 and you trying to turn on the air conditioning because you like it 60 degrees at all times. We're going to start off wrong from the very beginning. And most of us make those mistakes. We don't ask questions. We don't understand what we're getting ourselves into. And we get into it. And then 6 months later, we're talking about, I'm looking for a divorce. You were never trying to be married in the first place. Stop playing and get real about what you're trying to do, because marriage is a lifetime reality. And you may say, well, Brother Fontaine, you've been divorced before. I have. That's why I'm telling you. It's not a joke. It's not a game. And I've made decisions that I deeply regret. And if I had an opportunity to do certain things over again, a little differently, I absolutely would do it differently, but I cannot. So now I'm sharing the guidance and the wisdom because I'm a brother who's made mistakes. I wish I could go back and redo a lot of the things that I did with my sons because they suffered. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to be the best father that I can be. But I would say to you, as I close that point, settle down to a good choice. In the Nation of Islam, you have one wife, and that's that. We don't have two. We don't have three. We don't have one and two girlfriends. We don't have one girlfriend in New Orleans and another one up in New York, and you start playing these mental games with yourself. No, you have one. And let me say this, the one that you have, if you're smart and you're wise and you're serious about the love that you have for that one, and that one woman, I want you to listen to me, brothers, because this is real. The one sister that you have, if you handle that sister with love and with real care and genuine brotherhood, you can actually have 10 women in one. And you may say, what? How am I have 10 women in one? That's impossible. No, it's not. You already met a few of them. You already know 3 or 4 of your women already. You just don't know it, maybe not the way that I'm saying it. But have you ever made your wife mad? That's your mad woman. You ever made her happy? That's your happy woman. You ever made her enough where she want to cook for you? That's your cooking woman. Then you got a sweet woman. Then you got a mean woman. You got all type of women. But you got to know how to mine out the woman that you're trying to get to today. So if you want to get to that sweet woman that you're looking for, you got to send something good for her. Get some flowers. Get some candy. Come home and do something that makes her feel good about herself, that she may want to be that sweet woman for you today. But if you're doing foolish stuff, then you're going to get that mean, nasty, hardcore woman that you really don't want to deal with. And then we make the excuse, she don't know how to treat me. No, you didn't know how to bring out the best in that woman. And that's why she's treating you maybe the way that she's treating you. I do little things as I close this point. And people may say, man, you tell all your business. I sure do. Let me show you how to do this basic stuff. All of us as men go in the restroom and we brush our teeth. First thing in the morning, you should. If you don't, you should. When you get up and you go in the bathroom to brush your teeth, how much would it cost you to take the toothpaste and lay out your wife's toothbrush and put some toothpaste on it, and then take the cap of mouthwash and put a little mouthwash on it and set it there on the sink for her? And then when she comes in, man, you done laid out a toothbrush and some mouthwash. Didn't cost you nothing, but you building up love in the heart of that woman for you. How about going to get your woman a cup of ice water in the morning? Just every morning, a nice little, like I'm drinking a little 32-ounce cup. Styrofoam ain't the best, but you know what I'm saying. A little glass of ice water and set it on the foot of the bed. And when she wakes up, she get up, go to the restroom, brush her teeth, gargle, thinking about her love for you, come in the room, drink a sip of water, She drink coffee, get you a little Keurig machine or go to the Starbucks or whatever you like, and you come back with a nice cup of coffee or tea or whatever she likes. Oh, brother, that little stuff building love in that woman's heart for you, and it didn't cost you as much as a penny. See, we don't have a whole lot of material yet. We will, because we're going to be rich beyond our wildest imagination. But in the mean in between, do the little things that don't cost nothing. That's how you build up love in the heart of your woman. A cup of ice, putting some toothpaste and toothbrush together for your wife. Come on, brothers. That don't cost you nothing. I do little things like that. My wife's trying to get to work. I know how to on. I'll take my time. Sometimes I'll on her garment for her or on her clothes for her. That's not manly. Yes, it is, brother. Ain't nothing wrong with taking care of the woman that you love. It didn't cost me nothing, but it made her feel like a queen. It made her feel like I cared enough about her that she could get an extra 10 minutes sleep while I'm on in her uniform to get her to MGT class. What's wrong with that? Didn't take nothing away from me. It only built me up. Guess what, brothers? Real men wash clothes. I've been washing clothes since I was, man, I love washing clothes. I don't like folding them as much, but I like washing them. I do fold them, but I love washing them. It takes a burden off of my wife. My wife works like I work, 18, 19, 20 hours a day. I don't come home and kick off my shoes and say, baby, what we eating? What do you mean what we eating? We just came from the same place. I'm as tired as you are. Plus, I wash dishes. I do all of that type of little stuff. My wife loves it, brother. I do the best I can. I'm not the best. I make mistakes. I'm flawed. I do all of that. But the little things that I just noted, man, they build so much love in my woman's heart that when she wants to be mad when I mess up, she has to say, man, that brother's good outweighs his negative. And so I'm going to let that slide because he's a good brother at the core. And then she's chiseling the stuff that she don't want to be bothered with. She works on that. She speaks up. She speaks straight words, and she's helping me to become a better man. But brothers, it's our time. Make a good choice. Settle down to the good choice. Don't get impatient, because running out on that woman to go get another one. I'll close this point by saying the minister teaches us it's all like cookie cutters, brother. They're all the same. Their
Yes,
nature
sir.
is
Yes, sir.
exactly the same. The only thing that's different is one is light skinned, one is dark skinned, one is heavy, one is light, one is tall, one is short. They're all the same. When you get down to the root of it, they're all the same, black man. So ain't no need running out on the one you got. Make the one you got what you want that one to be, and she'll do the same for you. So still sharpening steel, love building on love, and the relationship can last. Is it difficult? Hell yeah. But can it be done? Yes. We have an example. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is in our midst. He's been married for 64 years. Come on, black man. It can be done. Brother Josh, I believe your parents have been married for over 30 some odd, or close to 40 years.
Yes, sir.
It can be done, brothers and sisters. I'm 18 and I've been through hell, but I'm 18 and I can say this without any shame. My wife has never had a problem with her husband, this brother right here, playing around with no sister. There's not a sister that can say she's had as much as an inappropriate text message, Facebook post, Instagram chat, none of that crap, man. I'm not been there and done that. I don't have that kind of time to bring that type of pain into the life of the woman that I love. And that's what we have to consider. Sneaking around, being unfaithful, it brings about some serious consequences. And so I close that point by saying, you love the woman that you're with, be right by that woman. Because every time we sneak out and creep out on the wife that's at home, you're playing Russian roulette with your life, and you're playing Russian roulette with her life. And imagine doing that and then come back and Allah forbid you've contracted herpes. What about you've contracted AIDS and you bring that home to your wife? How do you explain that? How do you overcome that? Why would you do that? Is it worth it? No. So settle down to a good choice. Find ways to mine out the love that's in that woman that you have. And if you do that, Allah will smile on us mightily, because a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And our women want to be respected, protected, honored, and loved. And when they know that their man is honorable to them, man, women ain't out here promiscuous, brother. That ain't even in their nature. They're not out there like that. The minister said you can be as ugly as 10 miles of bad road. That woman love you. She loyal to you. She's honorable by you. She will stand with you through thick and thin. I know it because I got one like that loves her man through thick and thin. She suffers with her brother. She's paid a hell of a price to be with me, because all I'm doing is trying to work, and I've taken her on a journey that's hard as you know what. But she hangs in there with her brother because she knows at the root, my heart is in the right place. I may not be doing it all perfectly, but I'm striving to be a better man today than I was yesterday. And inshallah, I'll be a better brother for her tomorrow than I am right now. I pray that I've answered that question, Brother Joshua.
Oh, Brother Fontaine, you answered it excellently. And Brother Fontaine, what happened is I had like 7 more questions, but I learned from watching the television show. I know you don't watch TV and because you're working all the time, but there's a television show called Yes, sir. There's a television show called Seinfeld, one of the greatest shows that comes on Hulu. But anyway, he said always leave on a high note. Once you get that boom boom, that's when you walk out of. Yes, you're gonna leave on that. Man, that was powerful. I mean, my goodness, bro. If I say everything you said was powerful, but that last point hit right in home. I know a lot of people need this. We're gonna upload this to YouTube. If y'all search Joshua Muhammad Off the Record, it'll come up tonight. Brother Fontaine, I want to thank you again and thank your wife. Josh. Your children, your family, everybody for their sacrifice. And man, we love you, Brother Fontaine, and I thank everybody for watching. Yes, and we're gonna put this on YouTube, and I'm gonna call you right now, Brother Fontaine. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Joshua. May Allah continue to bless you, your family, all of those who watch. We appreciate you so much. We look forward to serving you better today than we did yesterday, and better tomorrow than we did right now. Can we encourage the readers, Joshua, to use those 2 emails that we sent with those 2 articles? All opposition to Islam will be destroyed. And the last one is Seek Refuge in the Lord of the Dawn. Please, brothers and sisters, read those articles, internalize those articles, because the enemy is trying to rob us of faith. We simply can't allow that to happen. I greet you once again with a ton of love, a ton of respect. I greet you in peace, praying that everything that I've said was proper, and anything that I said that was not proper and not said in the best manner, that Allah will charge it to my head and absolutely not to my heart. I love you all. Thank you all. Appreciate you all. Brother Joshua, thank you for this honor. May Allah bless you and your family as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Yes, sir.